I should have known the universe was setting me up when the crystal decanter slipped in my hands for the third time that shift. Not dropped, just that wee moment of fumbling that made my heart stop before my fingers caught it again. 3 near misses in 4 hours. Bad luck came in threes, everyone said. I should have walked out right then. But I needed this job. Needed the $45 an hour that Celestine's paid under the table. No questions asked about my expired work visa, or the fact that I was 3 months behind on rent for the studio apartment I shared with my 6-year-old daughter in Queens. Needed every dollar that stood between us and the shelter system I'd spent my entire life in America trying to avoid. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. The Celestine Club occupied the top 3 floors of a building in Midtown Manhattan that didn't advertise its existence. No sign outside, just a brass number plate and a doorman who knew exactly who belonged and who didn't. I'd been working here for 6 weeks, serving wine and appetizers to men in suits that cost more than I'd make in a year, learning quickly that invisibility was survival. Tonight was busier than usual. Some kind of private business celebration in the main dining room. 50 men, maybe 3 women, all of them radiating the particular confidence that came from never hearing the word no. I moved between tables with practiced efficiency, my black uniform blending into the shadows, refilling glasses before they emptied, clearing plates before they were asked. More Bordeaux here. A man with slicked-back hair thrust his empty glass toward me without looking up from his conversation. I poured smoothly, professionally, and disappeared before he could register I'd been there at all. The kitchen was chaos. Marcel, the head chef, was screaming at someone in French about undercooked lamb. Rosa, who'd gotten me this job through her cousin, grabbed my arm as I entered. Table 12 needs the 1978 Chateau Margaux, she said quickly, her Puerto Rican accent thickening with stress. It's in the private wine cellar. Mr. Chen specifically requested it. You know where the key is? I nodded. The private cellar required special access, but I'd been shown the location during my first week. Down the service stairs, through the storage hallway, behind the door marked, "Authorized personnel only." The bottle sat in its designated spot, cradled in velvet like something precious, which it was. I'd seen the wine list prices. This particular vintage cost $8,000, more than 3 months of rent, more than my daughter Lily's entire year of after-school care. I lifted it carefully, cradling it against my body like I was carrying a newborn. The service stairs were narrow, dimly lit, and I'd climbed them 100 times without incident. But tonight, my shoe, the left one with the sole that had been separating for 2 weeks, caught on the edge of a step. I felt myself pitch forward, grabbed for the railing. The bottle shifted in my arms, and I made a choice in that split second: protect the wine or break my fall. I chose the wine. Hit the landing hard enough that pain exploded through my knee and shoulder. But I kept the bottle secure, checking frantically for cracks or damage. It was fine. Perfect. $8,000 of perfect French wine, completely intact. My knee wasn't. Blood seeped through my black pants where I'd torn the fabric and the skin beneath. My shoulder throbbed where it had connected with the wall. But I could walk, could function, had to function, because losing this job meant losing everything. I limped back up the stairs, grabbed a clean cloth to wipe the dust from the bottle, and emerged into the dining room with what I hoped looked like professional composure. Table 12 sat in the corner position. That wealthy men always preferred backs to the wall, view of all entrances, power seat by instinct. 4 men in dark suits, but my attention locked immediately on the one facing the room. He was younger than I expected, maybe 35, with black hair swept back from a face that looked like it had been carved from marble and then given just enough warmth to be devastating. Sharp jawline, straight nose, and eyes so dark they looked black in the low lighting. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than I'd make in 6 months, tailored perfectly to broad shoulders and a frame that suggested serious time in a gym, but it was his stillness that marked him as different. Everyone else in the room moved constantly, gestured, laughed, performed. He simply sat there, completely relaxed, and somehow commanded more attention than anyone else in the space. I approached the table with the bottle displayed properly, label facing Mr. Chen, who sat to the dark-haired man's right. "Your Chateau Margaux, sir." I kept my voice soft, professional. 1978, as requested. Mr. Chen barely glanced at me. Yes, pour. I moved around the table, serving Mr. Chen first as protocol demanded, then proceeding clockwise. Everything was fine until I reached the man in the power seat. My knee, weakened from the fall, chose that exact moment to buckle. I felt myself tipping forward, tried to catch my balance, failed completely. $8,000 of French wine arced through the air in what felt like slow motion and landed directly across the man's chest. Deep red liquid splashed across pristine white shirt, soaked into the charcoal jacket, dripped onto expensive Italian leather shoes. The entire dining room went silent. 50 conversations stopped dead. Every eye in the room turned to watch my complete and total destruction. Oh my God. The words came out barely above a whisper. My hands shook so violently I nearly dropped the empty bottle. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. The man looked down at his ruined suit. Then slowly, deliberately, he looked up at me. Those dark eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that made breathing impossible. I waited for the rage, for the screaming, for security to drag me out while he called the police and my boss fired me and everything fell apart. Instead, he did something completely unexpected. He smiled. Not a cruel smile or a mocking one. Something that looked almost amused. Well, he said, his voice deep and carrying a faint accent I couldn't place. Italian, maybe. That's one way to make an impression. Mr. Chen was already on his feet, face red with fury. Domenico, I am so sorry. This is completely unacceptable. I'll have her fired immediately. You'll do nothing of the sort. The man Domenico didn't raise his voice, but the command in it was absolute. Mr. Chen sat down like he'd been physically pushed. Domenico stood slowly, wine dripping from his jacket onto the floor. He was tall, maybe 6'3", and up close I could see the scar cutting through his left eyebrow. The calluses on his hands that didn't match his expensive clothes, the way every man in the room had subtly shifted their attention to him. This wasn't just a wealthy businessman. This was someone important, someone dangerous. What's your name? He asked me directly. Sophia. My voice came out steadier than I felt. Sophia Reyes. Sophia. He repeated it like he was tasting the syllables. Are you hurt? The question caught me completely off guard. What? You're limping. Your knee is bleeding. He gestured to where blood had soaked through my pants. Are you hurt? Tears burned behind my eyes from pain, from humiliation, from the sheer surreal nature of this man showing concern when I'd just destroyed his suit. I fell on the stairs. I'm fine. You're not fine. He shrugged out of his ruined jacket and held it out to me. Press this against your knee. You're bleeding through your uniform. I stared at the jacket, at the wine-soaked fabric that probably cost $3,000. I can't. Take it. Not a request. I took it, held the expensive fabric against my knee, and felt my face burn with shame. Domenico turned to address the room, his voice carrying effortlessly. Let this be a lesson, gentlemen. Sometimes the most memorable moments are the unplanned ones. He looked back at me, something calculating in his expression. Sophia will be bringing me a new bottle and a new shirt in my private office. We'll settle the matter there. My stomach dropped. Private office. Alone. With a man who radiated danger like heat from a furnace. Sir, I don't think... I started. 5 minutes. He cut me off, still not raising his voice. Franco will escort you. A man materialized from the shadows near the bar. Older, maybe mid-50s, built like a concrete block and wearing an expression that suggested he'd seen everything twice. He nodded once at me. Domenico walked out without another word, leaving a trail of wine drops like breadcrumbs. The room slowly returned to conversation, but I felt eyes tracking me, calculating, assessing, some pitying. Rosa appeared at my elbow, her face pale. Mija, what just happened? I don't know. My hand still shook. Who is he? She grabbed my arm, pulled me toward the kitchen, her voice dropping to a terrified whisper. That's Domenico Salvatore. He owns this building. He owns half of Manhattan. And Sophia? She crossed herself quickly. He's Mafia. Everyone knows it. They just can't prove it. The floor tilted beneath my feet. Mafia. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. I just poured wine on a Mafia boss. I have to leave, I said frantically. I have to get Lily and leave the city before... No, Franco's voice came from behind me, calm but unyielding. You have 5 minutes to clean up and meet Mr. Salvatore in his office. I suggest you don't keep him waiting. Rosa's grip on my arm tightened. I can. Watch Lily tonight. Whatever happens, your daughter is safe. I promise. Whatever happens. The words echoed in my head like a death sentence. I nodded mutely, let Rosa guide me to the staff bathroom where I washed my face, and pressed paper towels against my knee until the bleeding slowed, and tried to figure out how my life had gone from difficult to potentially over in the space of 10 minutes. The mirror showed a woman who looked younger than her 28 years. Dark hair pulled back in a severe bun, brown eyes too wide with fear, olive skin that had gone pale with shock. I looked exactly like what I was, an undocumented immigrant who'd just made a catastrophic mistake. Franco knocked once. Time's up. The office was on the top floor, behind a door that required a key card and probably a retinal scan. Franco led me through in silence, his presence somehow both threatening and protective. He stopped outside a heavy wooden door. "A word of advice," he said quietly. "Mr. Salvatore doesn't like lies. Whatever he asks, tell the truth. You'll live longer." Then he opened the door and gestured me inside. The office was massive, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan, expensive furniture that managed to look comfortable despite probably costing a fortune, and Domenico Salvatore, standing with his back to me, now wearing a fresh white shirt that emphasized the breadth of his shoulders. He turned when I entered, and I saw he'd cleaned up no more wine stains, hair slightly damp like he'd washed it quickly. He looked impossibly calm for a man who'd just had $8,000 of alcohol poured on him. "Sit." He gestured to a leather chair facing his desk. I sat, keeping my spine straight, hands folded in my lap to hide their trembling. Domenico settled into the chair behind his desk, studying me with unsettling focus. "Your knee needs proper attention. I have a doctor on call. I'm fine. You're bleeding through my jacket." He leaned forward, slightly. "How long have you been working at Celestine's?" 6 weeks. "And before that?" I hesitated, weighing how much truth Franco's advice required. "I worked at 3 other restaurants, various jobs." "Legal employment?" My silence answered the question. Something flickered in his expression, not judgment, more like confirmation of a suspicion. "You're undocumented." My visa expired 2 years ago." The admission felt like stepping off a cliff. I couldn't afford to renew it. I couldn't afford to leave either. My daughter was born here. She's American. I'm just trying to keep us together. "How old is your daughter?" 6. "Father in the picture?" "He left before she was born. We're alone." Domenico was quiet for a long moment, those dark eyes never leaving my face. Then he opened a drawer, pulled out a checkbook, and began writing. "The wine you destroyed cost $8,000, he said conversationally. "The suit was $3,000, the shoes $1,500, call it $13,000 total." My vision blurred. $13,000. I could work for a year and not save that much. Could work for 5 years and barely make a dent in that debt. I'll pay it back. My voice cracked. "However long it takes. I'll work extra shifts. You'll do nothing of the sort." He tore the check free and slid it across the desk. I looked down at it, froze completely. The check was made out to me, for $50,000. "I don't understand." I looked up at him, certain I was misreading something. "This is payment for services." Domenico leaned back in his chair, completely relaxed. "I need someone fluent in Spanish to translate documents for my international business operations. Someone intelligent, discreet, and already accustomed to working in complicated situations. I poured wine on you. You protected an $8,000 bottle when you fell. Took the injury yourself rather than risk breaking it. That shows prioritization under pressure." His mouth curved slightly. Most people would have let it shatter. "I can't accept this." I pushed the check back across the desk with shaking hands. "I don't know anything about business. I'm just a waitress. You speak English, Spanish, and if I'm not mistaken, some Italian and Portuguese, based on the way you pronounced certain menu items earlier." He didn't touch the check. "You've been watching this room all night, reading social dynamics, understanding who has power and who doesn't. That's not just waitressing. That's intelligence. Why would you offer this to me?" The question came out desperate. "You don't know me. I destroyed your clothes. I'm nobody. You're somebody who's fighting to survive while protecting someone you love. That's not nobody, Sophia." He stood, moved around the desk until he was leaning against it directly in front of me, close enough that I could smell cedar and something darker, expensive cologne mixed with power. "I'll be honest with you," he continued, voice dropping lower. "I need someone untraceable for certain translations. Someone without official documentation makes that easier. But more than that, I saw how you handled yourself tonight. Grace under complete humiliation. Dignity when you had every right to fall apart. He tilted my chin up with one finger, made me meet his eyes. I'm offering you a choice. Walk out of here tonight with nothing. Go back to struggling in restaurants where one slip means disaster. Or take the check, work for me, and give your daughter the stability she deserves. What kind of translations? I made myself ask. Legal documents or… Sometimes legal, sometimes less so. He didn't soften it. My business operations exist in gray areas. You'd be translating contracts, communications, occasionally serving as an interpreter for meetings with international associates. Nothing violent, nothing that would put you in direct danger. But you'd know things, see things. That requires discretion. You're asking me to work for organized crime. I'm asking you to work for me. His thumb traced my jawline once before he stepped back. Everything else is details. I looked at the check again. $50,000. A year of rent paid in advance. Lily's after-school program fully funded. Groceries without calculating every item. Medical care if she got sick. The stability I'd been chasing since arriving in this country 8 years ago. All I had to do was sell my soul to the Mafia. I need to think about it, I heard myself say. Of course. Domenico returned to his seat, pulled out a business card and wrote something on the back. My private number. You have 48 hours to decide. If I don't hear from you, I'll assume the answer is no. The wine incident will be forgotten. Your job here is secure, and we never speak again. I took the card, stood on shaking legs. And if I say yes, then your life changes completely. He met my eyes directly. For better or worse, I can't promise which. But I can promise you'll never have to worry about rent again. And your daughter will have opportunities you could never provide working as a waitress. Franco appeared at the door like he'd been summoned telepathically. I'll drive you home. I can take the subway. You're bleeding. You're in shock. And it's 11 at night in Manhattan. Domenico's tone left no room for argument. Franco will drive you. Consider it compensation for the injury you sustained in my establishment. The car was a black Mercedes that probably cost more than I'd make in a lifetime. Franco drove in silence through Manhattan streets that glittered with wealth I'd only ever observed from the outside. We pulled up outside my building in Queens, a walk-up that had probably been nice in the 1,970 seconds, and was now just tired. Thank you, I said quietly, reaching for the door handle. Miss Reyes. Franco's voice stopped me. A word of advice if you'll permit it. I nodded. Mr. Salvatore doesn't make offers like this lightly. In 26 years working for him, I've never seen him show this kind of interest in someone after a single meeting. He turned to look at me directly. Whatever you decide, know that he meant what he said. You'll be protected. Your daughter will be protected. That's not a small thing in his world. Why does he care? The question burst out before I could stop it. I'm nobody. A waitress who spilled wine on him. Franco's expression softened slightly. Maybe that's exactly why. In his world, everyone wants something from him: power, money, connections. You just wanted to not lose your job. That's refreshing. I climbed out of the car, clutching the check and business card like they might disappear. Watched the Mercedes pull away into the night. Limped up 4 flights of stairs to the apartment where Rosa sat on my worn couch, Lily asleep against her shoulder. Mija. Rosa stood carefully, transferring my daughter to the cushions. What happened? Are you okay? I showed her the check. Watched her eyes go wide. Dios mío. She crossed herself again. Sophia, what did you agree to? Nothing yet. I sank into a chair, every muscle aching. I have 48 hours to decide if I'm going to work for him. The Mafia, Sophia. You'd be working for the Mafia. I know. I looked at Lily, sleeping peacefully in her faded pajamas that were getting too small. At the apartment with its peeling paint and radiator that barely worked. At the life I'd built that was always one disaster away from collapsing completely. What are you going to do? Rosa asked quietly. I don't know. But I was lying. Because I'd already made my decision the moment Domenico Salvatore looked at me like I was someone worth protecting instead of someone who'd ruined his evening. I was going to call that number. Take that job. Step into a world I didn't understand because it was the only way to give Lily the childhood I'd never had. Sometimes survival meant making impossible choices. Sometimes it meant shaking hands with the devil and hoping he kept his promises. I just hoped I'd live long enough to not regret it. I called the number 36 hours later, not because I'd spent that time carefully weighing options, but because I'd spent it watching Lily eat cereal for dinner 3 nights in a row, while I calculated whether we could afford milk next week. The choice had never really been a choice at all. The phone rang once before, a male voice answered. Not Domenico, someone else, professional and cautious. Salvatore residence. This is Sofia Reyes. Mr. Salvatore asked me to call. One moment, please. Silence. Then Domenico's voice, smooth and certain. Sophia, I wasn't sure you'd call. I'd like to accept your offer. I kept my voice steady despite my racing heart. The translation work. Good. Satisfaction colored his tone. Can you start Monday? I need to give notice at Celestine's already handled. You'll receive 2 weeks severance pay. Franco will pick you up Monday morning at 8. Bring your daughter. My stomach clenched. Why would I bring Lily? Because you'll need to see the apartment I'm providing. Make sure it's suitable before you move in this weekend. He said it like it was the most natural thing in the world. Part of your employment package includes housing. Your current building isn't safe enough. Quote, I never agreed to move, Sophia. His voice dropped lower, more intimate. Your front door lock is broken. Your building has no security. Last month there were 3 break-ins on your floor alone. If you're going to work for me, you become my responsibility. That means adequate protection. How do you know about the break-ins? I make it my business to know everything about people who interest me. He didn't apologize for the invasion of privacy. Monday, 8 a.m. Wear something comfortable. We have a lot to discuss. He hung up before I could argue further. Rosa came over Saturday morning to help me pack. Not that I had much to pack. Our entire life fit into 6 suitcases and a handful of boxes. Lily thought it was an adventure, excited about the new house, without understanding the cost of that house. Are you sure about this? Rosa asked quietly while Lily played with her worn stuffed rabbit in the corner. Once you're in that world, Sophia, getting out is almost impossible. I'm already in it. I folded Lily's small clothes carefully. The moment I accepted his money, I crossed a line. Might as well see where it leads. What if it leads somewhere you can't come back from? I met her eyes. Then at least Lily will be safe while I'm there. The apartment Domenico provided was in a building in the Upper West Side that had actual security doormen, cameras, keycard access for the elevators. Franco led us to the 14th floor and opened a door to reveal space that made my throat tight. 2 bedrooms, both larger than my entire Queen's apartment. Modern kitchen with appliances that actually worked. Living room with furniture that didn't sag. Windows overlooking Central Park. Hardwood floors and crown molding, and the kind of tasteful decoration that came from having money to spend on aesthetics. This is too much, I said, frozen in the doorway. I can't afford. You're not paying for it. Franco set my suitcases down inside. It's part of your employment package. Building has 24-hour security, doormen who know to look out for you and your daughter. Your neighbors are mostly doctors and lawyers. Good people. Safe neighborhood. Lily had already run to explore the bedrooms, her delighted squeals echoing through the space. Mama, this room has a princess bed. I followed her to find a child's bedroom that looked like something from a magazine. Pink walls, white furniture, stuffed animals arranged on shelves, and yes, a bed with a canopy that did look like something a princess would sleep in. Mr. Salvatore had it prepared. Franco stood in the doorway. He asked what your daughter liked. I may have mentioned she was 6 and enjoyed stories about princesses. My vision blurred with tears I refused to let fall. This is manipulation. This is a man ensuring his employees are comfortable and secure. Franco's voice gentled. Take the gift, Miss Reyes. Your daughter deserves a princess bed. He left us to settle in, promising to return Monday morning at 8 sharp. Lily spent the afternoon exploring every corner of the apartment, convinced we'd entered some kind of fairy tale. I spent it wondering what price would eventually come due for all this generosity. Monday arrived too quickly. I dressed carefully in black pants and a simple blue blouse, professional, but not expensive. The best I owned. Lily wore her school uniform, backpack ready for the private school Franco had mentioned Domenico had arranged enrollment in. Where are we going? Lily asked as we rode the elevator down at 7:55. Mama has a new job, baby. You're going to see my office. Then Franco is taking you to your new school. Will there be other kids who speak Spanish? I'm sure there will be. I kissed the top of her head, breathing in the strawberry scent of her shampoo. You're going to make so many friends. Franco was waiting exactly at 8, the Mercedes idling at the curb. He smiled when he saw Lily, his granite expression softening. Miss Lily, I hear you're starting at PS47 today. Is it a good school? Lily climbed into the back seat with the fearlessness of children who hadn't yet learned to be cautious. The best. Franco closed her door carefully, then opened mine. Mr. Salvatore attended there as a child. He's made a generous donation to their arts program. Of course he had. Because Domenico Salvatore thought of everything, planned for every detail, ensured his investments, including me, had everything necessary to succeed. The drive took 20 minutes through morning traffic. We pulled up outside a building in Tribeca that looked like an expensive office, complex glass and steel and architectural lines that suggested serious money. Franco led us inside, past security that nodded recognition, into an elevator that required a key card for the top floor. The doors opened directly into a reception area that was all modern elegance. A woman in her 30s, sharply dressed, looked up from her desk with a professional smile. "Miss Reyes, Mr. Salvatore is expecting you, and this must be Lily." She came around the desk, crouched to Lily's level. "I'm Maria. I work with your mama. Would you like a cookie while you wait? I have chocolate chip." Lily looked at me for permission. I nodded, and Maria led her to a small sitting area with toys and books clearly set up for exactly this purpose. "He thinks of everything," I said quietly. "Mr. Salvatore believes in thorough preparation." Maria's smile held genuine warmth. "Your office is ready. Let me show you." My office was down a hallway lined with frosted glass, smaller than the reception area but still generous. Desk, computer, filing cabinets, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Everything I could possibly need. The documents requiring translation are in the filing system. Maria showed me how to access the secure network. Priority items are flagged red. Standard contracts are blue. Mr. Salvatore reviews everything personally before it's finalized. "When do I meet with him?" "He's in a meeting currently, but asked that you join him for lunch at 12:30. I'll come get you." She paused at the door. "Miss Reyes, Mr. Salvatore doesn't give second chances often. The fact that he gave you a first chance means something. Don't waste it." I spent the morning reviewing documents, and Maria's warning proved accurate. These weren't simple business contracts. Shipping manifests, with codes embedded in cargo descriptions. Financial transfers structured to move money through layers that would take forensic accountants months to trace. Communications with suppliers in Spain, Mexico, and Colombia that carefully never specified what was being supplied. I was translating documents that laundered money, concealed illegal shipments, provided cover for operations I didn't want to imagine. But the work itself was straightforward. Take Spanish text, render it into English with precise attention to nuance and cultural context. Just words, just language. I told myself it was just words until I almost believed it. At 12:30, Maria appeared at my door. "Mr. Salvatore is ready for you." His office was at the end of the hall, twice the size of mine, with views of the Hudson River and furniture that managed to look both expensive and comfortable. Domenico stood at the windows, phone to his ear, speaking rapid Italian that I could follow enough to understand he was coordinating a shipment from Naples. He glanced back when I entered, held up one finger, "Give me a minute," and I used the time to study him properly. He'd shed the jacket, worked in shirt sleeves that showed forearms corded with muscle. His hair had fallen slightly out of perfect arrangement, making him look younger, more accessible, until he turned and those dark eyes locked onto me with predatory focus. "Grazie, Luca. Si, Giovedi." He ended the call, set the phone aside. "Sophia, how was your first morning? The documents are interesting." I chose my words carefully, complex in ways that require attention to detail. Diplomatic answer. His mouth curved slightly. "You've realized what you're actually translating?" "Yes." And I'm doing the job you hired me for." I met his gaze directly. "You were honest about the gray areas. I'm not naive enough to pretend I don't see them." Something that looked like approval flickered in his expression. "Good. Willful ignorance is dangerous in this business." He gestured to a small table set up near the windows, already laid with lunch. "Come, sit. We should discuss parameters." The food was Italian pasta carbonara, fresh bread, a green salad that looked like it had been picked that morning. Wine remained conspicuously absent. "I thought that might be in poor taste," Domenico said, following my glance to the water glasses. "Given our first meeting." A laugh escaped before I could stop it. "Considerate of you." "I can be considerate when it suits me." He served me pasta with practiced ease. "Now, let's establish rules. You translate documents and attend occasional meetings as interpreter. You don't ask questions about operations beyond what's necessary for accurate translation. You maintain complete discretion about everything you see or hear. Agreed?" "Agreed. In exchange, you receive $60,000 a year, full benefits, the apartment, and enrollment for Lily at PS 47, with all expenses covered. Additionally, he pulled an envelope from his jacket, slid it across the table. Health insurance, real insurance, not the emergency-only coverage you've been using. For both of you. I opened the envelope to find insurance cards with my name and Lily's. Coverage that included dental, vision, mental health services, the kind of insurance I dreamed about but never imagined having. Why? The question came out barely above a whisper. You're spending a fortune on me and I haven't proven I'm worth any of this. You've already proven it. Domenico leaned back, studying me. You show up on time. You don't complain. You do the work without moral grandstanding, and more importantly, his expression shifted, became more serious. You remind me that there are still people in this world fighting for something beyond themselves. I'm just trying to survive. No, you're trying to protect your daughter. That's different. He took a slow sip of water. My mother raised me, alone after my father was killed. Worked 3 jobs to keep us fed, keep me in school, keep me from falling into the same world that destroyed him. She died when I was 17, exhausted and broken from a life spent fighting. Pain flickered across his face, quickly controlled. I swore I'd never let anyone sacrifice themselves like that again. Not for me, not because of me. So when I see a woman working herself to death for a child, I intervene. Call it penance. The vulnerability in his admission made him suddenly dangerously human. Not just the powerful Mafia boss, but a man carrying his own wounds. I'm sorry about your mother. So am I. He straightened, the moment of vulnerability closing like a door. Enough heavy topics. Tell me about Lily. 6 years old, loves princesses. What else? We talked through lunch about safe things, Lily's favorite books, her fear of thunderstorms, the way she mixed Spanish and English when she was tired. Domenico listened with genuine interest, asking questions that showed he was actually paying attention. She sounds extraordinary, he said when I finished describing how Lily had memorized an entire Disney movie in both languages. She's everything. The truth of it sat heavy in my chest. Everything I do is for her. Then we have that in common. Domenico stood, moved to his desk, and returned with a small box. I have a meeting in 10 minutes, but before you go, this is for you. Inside the box was a phone, top-of-the-line smartphone, already activated. Your number is programmed, he explained. Mine is the first contact. Franco's is second. If you need anything at all, you call. Day or night. Emergency or inconvenience. You're part of my organization now, Sophia. That means you're protected. I don't need... Yes, you do. His tone left no room for argument. The people I deal with aren't always civilized. Having you traceable, reachable, means I can ensure your safety. It's not negotiable. I took the phone, feeling the weight of the invisible chains settling around me. Protection and imprisonment often look the same from the inside. Franco drove Lily and me home that evening. She chattered the entire ride about her new school, her new teacher, Miss Williams, the 3 friends she'd already made. She was happy, safe, thriving in a way she never had before, and all it cost was my soul and whatever remained of my principles. The apartment felt different that night. Less like a gift, and more like a beautiful cage. I made dinner in the kitchen with appliances that actually worked, helped Lily with homework at a table that didn't wobble, tucked her into the princess bed she'd already claimed as her favorite place in the world. Mama? She looked up at me with brown eyes too wise for 6 years old. Are we safe now? My throat tightened. Yes, baby, we're safe. Good. She snuggled deeper into blankets that smelled like lavender. I like being safe. I sat in the living room after she fell asleep, staring at the phone Domenico had given me. His number was listed simply as D. 1 letter. Like that was all the identification he needed. The phone rang at 10:30, startling me. D's name appeared on the screen. Hello? Sophia. His voice was rough, tired. I wanted to make sure you and Lily made it home safely. We're fine. She loves the school. Thank you for arranging it. It's nothing. I heard ice clink against glass. He was drinking something. Listen, I have a meeting tomorrow that requires an interpreter. Spanish to English. A supplier from Mexico City. Can you handle that? Of course. What time? 2 p. M. Franco will brief you on protocols beforehand. It's just business discussion. Nothing dangerous, but these men are traditional. They'll test you, try to see if you're weak. Don't let them. I won't. Silence stretched between us, comfortable somehow despite everything it represented. Sophia? His voice dropped lower. You did well today. Better than I expected. I'm glad you called me. The admission felt intimate in a way that had nothing to do with words. I'm glad too, I said softly. Good night, Domenico. Buonanotte, Sofia. He hung up, and I sat in the dark holding a phone that connected me to a man who was either my salvation or my destruction. Maybe both. Tomorrow I'd attend my first real meeting. Step deeper into his world. Learn exactly what protected meant when the person doing the protecting was more dangerous than any threat I'd face. But tonight, I listened to my daughter's peaceful breathing through the open bedroom door and told myself I'd made the right choice. Sometimes survival meant compromising everything you'd thought you believed. Sometimes it meant accepting help from people who operated outside the law. Sometimes it meant falling for the devil who'd offered you salvation. I just hoped I'd recognize the difference before it was too late. The Mexican suppliers arrived at exactly 2 p.m., escorted by Franco and 2 men I didn't recognize. 3 men total. Older gentleman in an expensive suit who introduced himself as Señor Mendoza, and 2 younger men who radiated the particular alertness of professional security. Domenico greeted them in the conference room with the easy confidence of someone completely comfortable with power. He'd changed into a fresh suit navy this time, with a white shirt that made his olive skin seem darker. He looked like he'd stepped out of a magazine spread about wealthy Italian businessmen. Nothing about his appearance suggested the dangerous reality beneath. Señor Mendoza. Domenico shook his hand firmly. Thank you for making the trip. Please, sit. This is Sofia Reyes, my translator. She'll be facilitating our discussion today. Mendoza's eyes swept over me with calculated assessment. Your translator is very young, and very beautiful. Does she have the experience necessary for sensitive business discussions? The condescension was deliberate. A test, just as Domenico had warned. I responded in flawless Spanish, keeping my voice professional and cool. I have a degree in linguistics from Universidad Nacional in Mexico City, Señor Mendoza. I've been translating complex business documents for 5 years. My age and appearance have no bearing on my competence. Shall we begin? Something flickered in Mendoza's expression surprise, then grudging respect. He nodded slowly. See, let us begin. The meeting lasted 2 hours. Discussion of shipping routes, payment structures, delivery schedules for textiles that I was absolutely certain weren't textiles. Mendoza spoke in rapid Spanish thick with Mexican idioms and cartel terminology. I translated everything precisely, maintaining the emotional tone and cultural nuances that pure word-for-word translation would miss. When Mendoza made a joke at Domenico's expense subtle enough in Spanish that it might have been missed, I translated it exactly, including the slight insult embedded in the grammar. Domenico's mouth curved slightly, acknowledging both the dig and my accuracy. Señor Mendoza suggests that northern businessmen often lack the flexibility required for successful partnerships, I said carefully. He's curious whether you'll prove to be an exception to that rule. Please tell Señor Mendoza that flexibility is important, Domenico replied smoothly. But so is reliability. The Salvatore family has maintained partnerships for 3 generations by honoring our commitments. We don't promise what we can't deliver. I translated, watching Mendoza's face. He nodded approvingly. By the time they left, a tentative agreement had been reached. Mendoza shook Domenico's hand with genuine warmth, then turned to me. You are exceptional, he said in Spanish. Your employer is fortunate to have found you. If you ever wish to work for someone who would appreciate you properly. He held out his business card with a meaningful mounted his innovactionant smile. Señor Mendoza is complimenting my work, I told Domenico in English, and suggesting I might prefer to work for him instead. Domenico's expression didn't change, but something cold entered his eyes. He responded in Italian, which I understood enough to catch the gist, telling Franco to escort their guests to their car. The moment the conference room door closed, Domenico turned to me. He offered you a job. He offered me a business card and innuendo. I'm not interested. Good. He moved closer, and I found myself backed against the conference table. Because you're mine, Sofia. The work you do, the skills you have, the access you're being given, all of it stays within my organization. Understood? Understood. My heart hammered against my ribs, but not entirely from fear. This close, I could smell cedar and smoke and something indefinably him. Could see the way his pupils had dilated slightly, the tension in his jaw. You did exceptionally well today, he said, voice dropping lower. Mendoza is notoriously difficult. Most translators either miss his subtleties or offend him by being too direct. You walked that line perfectly. It's my job. It's more than that. His hand came up, cupped my face with surprising gentleness. You're more than that. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yes. No. Maybe. I understood that whatever was building between us was dangerous, that the way he looked at me had nothing to do with professional appreciation, and everything to do with something darker, more complicated. Domenico, I started. The door burst open. Franco stood there, face grave. Boss, we have a situation. The Albanians hit the Brooklyn warehouse. 3 of our guys are dead. Everything changed in an instant. Domenico's expression went flat, empty of emotion in a way that was somehow more frightening than rage. He stepped back from me, buttoning his jacket with mechanical precision. Get Sophia home. Full security detail. Nobody in or out. Of her building without clearance. He was already moving toward the door. Call Marcus and Tony. I want everyone at the Brooklyn location in 20 minutes. Domenico, what's happening? I grabbed his arm, stopping him. Who are the Albanians? Rival organization. They've been testing boundaries for months. He looked down at my hand on his arm, then back to my face. This doesn't concern you. Franco will keep you safe. If I'm part of your organization, it concerns me. Something that might have been admiration flickered in his eyes. You're brave, or foolish. I haven't decided which. He covered my hand with his, squeezed once. Stay home tonight. Don't open the door for anyone except Franco or me. I'll call you when this is handled. Then he was gone, Franco right behind him, and I stood alone in the conference room trying to process what had just happened. The drive home was tense. Franco kept checking mirrors, taking turns that didn't make sense. When we finally pulled up to my building, 2 additional men were already stationed in the lobby. Miss Reyes, the larger one, nodded at me. I'm Marcus. This is Tony. We'll be on your floor tonight. You need anything, you call down to the desk. They'll send one of us up. Is this really necessary? Boss's orders. Marcus's expression was granite. When the Albanians hit us, they hit hard. Until we know their next move, you're a potential target. Target. The word echoed in my head as I rode the elevator up. Let myself into the apartment where Lily was doing homework with Rosa. My daughter looked up with a bright smile, completely unaware that her mother had just been declared a potential casualty in a Mafia war. Mama, look, I got an A on my spelling test. I pulled her into a fierce hug, breathing in her strawberry shampoo, grounding myself in her reality. This was why I'd made the choice. This safety, this stability, this life where she got A's and had friends and didn't worry about weather-wise. We'd have food next week. The cost was just higher than I'd anticipated. Rosa stayed until 8, then Franco arrived to drive her home. Lock the door, he reminded me unnecessarily. Call if you need anything. Lily fell asleep by 9, exhausted from her exciting day. I sat on the couch with my phone, trying to focus on anything except wondering if Domenico was safe, wondering what handling it meant in his world, wondering how many more people would die tonight because of territory disputes and power plays I didn't understand. The phone rang at 11:30. Dee's name on the screen made my heart jump. Are you safe? I answered before he could speak. I'm fine. His voice was rough, exhausted. It's handled. 3 casualties on their side, none on ours beyond the initial hit. They won't try again anytime soon. What does handled mean? Silence. Then, it means you don't need to worry about it. Domenico. Sophia. He cut me off, gentle but firm. This is the part of my world you don't get to see. The part that stays separate from your daughter's princess bed and your office job. Can you accept that? Could I? Could I take his protection, his money, his resources, while deliberately closing my eyes to the violence that paid for it all? I can try, I said finally. That's all I ask. I heard him exhale slowly. I should let you sleep. Long day tomorrow. We're meeting with a distributor from Rome. Your Italian will be useful. Domenico, are you really okay? The pause stretched long enough that I thought he might have hung up. Then, no, but I will be. Knowing you and Lily are safe helps. The admission felt like a gift, something real and vulnerable from a man who showed vulnerability to almost no one. Get some sleep, I said softly. I'll see you tomorrow. Buonanotte, Sophia. Sogni d'oro. Sweet dreams. The endearment in Italian felt more intimate than it would have in English. I held the phone long after he'd hung up, trying to understand how I'd gotten here. How in less than a week, I'd gone from struggling waitress to protected asset of a Mafia boss who was starting to feel like something more than an employer. The next morning, I woke to find a text from Dee. Security stays for the next week. Not negotiable. See you at 9. Lily thought having Marcus and Tony stationed in our building was exciting, like having bodyguards in a movie. I didn't have the heart to tell her it wasn't a game, that real people had died last night, that we were only safe because someone else had decided to make us a priority. The week passed in a strange new rhythm. Days at the office, translating documents and attending meetings where I learned more than I wanted to know about import-export operations that had nothing to do with legitimate cargo. Evenings with Lily, homework and dinner and bedtime stories, in an apartment that felt more like home than anywhere I'd lived in 8 years. And through it all, Domenico, present in ways that had nothing to do with professional distance. The way he'd bring coffee to my office exactly how I liked it, 2 sugars, no cream. The way he'd ask about Lily's day before discussing business. The way his hand would settle on my lower back when guiding me through crowded restaurants, possessive and protective in equal measure. We were crossing lines neither of us had acknowledged, building something that felt dangerous and inevitable. Friday evening, he asked me to stay late. Everyone else had left. The office quiet except for city sounds filtering through closed windows. He'd shed his jacket hours ago, worked in shirt sleeves with his tie loosened, looking more tired than I'd ever seen him. Sophia. He looked up when I appeared in his doorway. Thank you for staying. I need your opinion on something. I settled into the chair across from his desk, watched him pull out a folder thick with documents. The Albanians want to negotiate peace, he said without preamble. They're proposing a territory division. I stay out of their drug operations. They stay out of my shipping routes. Clean separation. That sounds positive. It sounds too easy. He rubbed his face, exhaustion evident. Men like Arten Krasniki don't make peace offerings without ulterior motives. I need to know what he's really saying. He slid papers across the desk communications in Albanian, which I'd studied briefly in college but wasn't fluent in. I can't translate this precisely, I admitted. My Albanian isn't strong enough for nuance. I know. He leaned back, studying me. That's not why I'm showing you. I'm showing you because I value your opinion. You read people well. What's your instinct telling you about this? The question surprised me. He was asking for strategic advice, treating me like an actual advisor rather than just a translator. I studied the documents, looking for patterns. The language is formal, respectful, but there's something. I pointed to a specific phrase. This wording here, it's technically correct, but the grammar structure is subtly insulting, like he's treating you as a lesser power who should be grateful for his offer. Domenico's eyes sharpened. You caught that from grammar? Language reveals power dynamics. He's positioning himself as the one granting favors, you as the one receiving them, which means this isn't an equal partnership. It's a setup for him to claim you owe him something later. That's exactly what I suspected. He smiled, something warm and genuine. You're extraordinary. You know that? Heat flooded my face. I'm just doing my job. No. He stood, came around the desk. You're exceeding every expectation I had, making yourself invaluable in ways I didn't anticipate. He was close now. Too close. I could see the dark circles under his eyes, the tension in his shoulders, the way he looked at me like I was something precious and dangerous in equal measure. Domenico, we shouldn't. Shouldn't what? His hand cupped my face, thumb tracing my cheekbone. Acknowledge that this stopped being purely professional days ago? That I think about you constantly? That knowing you're safe is the only thing that lets me sleep? I work for you. I'm dependent on you. The power imbalance is significant, I know. He didn't step back, which is why I'm not going to kiss you right now, even though I desperately want to. Why I'm going to send you home with Franco and maintain appropriate boundaries. But Sophia, his voice dropped lower. Eventually you're going to realize that you want this too, and when that happens I won't be able to stay away. My breath caught, because he was right. Somewhere between the princess bed and the phone calls and the way he protected me without making me feel weak, I'd started wanting this. Wanting him. I should go, I managed. Lily's with Rosa. I need to relieve her. Of course. He stepped back, professional mask sliding back into place. Franco's waiting. I'll see you Monday. I fled his office like something was chasing me. Maybe it was. Maybe the thing chasing me was the truth I didn't want to face, that I was falling for a man who killed people as casually as he drank coffee. That protection and possession had started to blur together. That I was in deeper than any amount of money could justify. Franco drove me home in silence, but when we pulled up to my building, he turned to look at me. Miss Reyes? A word of advice? I nodded. Boss hasn't cared about anyone since his mother died. Hasn't let anyone close. The fact that he's letting you in means something. His expression was serious. Don't break his heart. Men like him don't recover from that kind of damage. I'm not trying to break anything. I'm trying to survive. Then survive carefully. Because in his world, Sophia, hearts are more dangerous than bullets. At least bullets you can see coming. I climbed out of the car carrying that warning like a weight. Relieved Rosa, tucked Lily into bed, and sat alone in the dark trying to understand how I'd gotten here. 10 days ago, I'd been a waitress one disaster away from homelessness. Now I lived in an apartment I couldn't afford, worked for a criminal organization, and was falling for a man who embodied everything I'd been taught to avoid. The worst part? I didn't regret it. Not the choice, not the compromise, not even the growing feelings I had for Domenico Salvatore. I just hoped those feelings wouldn't be what finally destroyed us both. My phone buzzed with a text. Thank you for tonight. Your insight probably just saved lives. Sleep well, Sophia. I stared at the message, typed and deleted 3 different responses, finally settled on, you too. See you Monday. But what I wanted to say was, I'm terrified of what I'm feeling. Terrified it's real. Terrified it's not. Terrified that either way, I'm in too deep to ever find my way back out. Instead, I turned off the phone and went to bed, dreaming of dark eyes and dangerous promises, and the feeling of Domenico's hand against my face like I was something worth protecting. Monday would come soon enough. And with it, another step deeper into a world I'd never expected to enter. Some doors, once opened, couldn't be closed again. I'd walked through Domenico's door voluntarily. Now I just had to survive whatever waited on the other side. The Albanian proposal sat on Domenico's desk for 3 days, like a poisonous flower waiting to bloom. He didn't respond, didn't acknowledge it. Just let Artan Krasniki's offer hang in the air between them, while tensions built like pressure before a storm. I felt it in the office, the way conversations stopped when I entered rooms. The increased security, Franco's perpetual presence, shadowing me from building to car to apartment. Even Lily noticed something was different. Mama, why does Franco always wait in the car now? She asked Tuesday morning as we left for school. He's making sure we're safe, baby. Safe from what? From men who think I'm valuable enough to hurt. From a war I don't understand. From consequences of choices I made to protect you. Just safe, I said, buckling her seatbelt. Don't worry about it. But I worried. Worried about the way Domenico looked increasingly exhausted each day. About the 2 a.m. phone calls I overheard through my office door, rapid Italian laced with barely controlled fury. About the closed-door meetings with men whose faces suggested they'd seen violence and probably caused more. Wednesday afternoon, everything escalated. I was translating a contract from Spanish when Maria burst into my office without knocking, face pale. Sophia, you need to come with me. Now. What's wrong? Lily's school called. There was an incident. She's fine, Maria added quickly, seeing my expression. But Mr. Salvatore wants you in his office, immediately. My heart stopped. I ran down the hallway, burst through Domenico's door to find him on the phone, jaw tight with barely controlled rage. No, you listen to me, he said in English, voice deadly calm. If you think approaching a 6-year-old child is acceptable negotiating tactics, you've fundamentally misunderstood who you're dealing with. Tell Krasniki he has 24 hours to deliver the men responsible, or I declare open war. Am I clear? He slammed the phone down, turned to me. Lily's fine. Franco has her. But we need to talk. What happened? My voice came out barely above a whisper. 2 men approached her school this morning. Albanian accents. They asked the security guard if she attended classes there. Claimed to be family friends checking enrollment for their niece. His hands curled into fists. The guard didn't let them pass the gate, but they took photos of the building, the playground, the drop-off area. The floor tilted beneath me. They were targeting her. They were sending a message, that you're vulnerable through her, that I'm vulnerable through you. He moved around the desk, gripped my shoulders. This is my fault. I should have anticipated Krasniki would try something like this. Where is she now? With Franco, heading to a safe location. I'm taking you there now. You'll both stay under protection until this is resolved. Resolved how? I pulled back, looked at him directly. What are you going to do? What I should have done weeks ago. His expression was granite. End this permanently. The safe house was a brownstone in Brooklyn, nondescript from the outside but clearly fortified within. Cameras covered every angle, reinforced doors, and at least 6 armed men I could see stationed at strategic positions. Franco met us in the entryway, Lily's small hand clutched in his. She ran to me the moment she saw me, tears streaming down her face. "Mama," I was scared. These men came and everyone was running around and Miss Williams said I had to leave early. "Shh, baby. It's okay. You're safe." I held her tight, meeting Franco's eyes over her head. He nodded once she hadn't been in actual danger, just frightened by the sudden evacuation. Domenico crouched to Lily's level, voice gentle in a way I'd never heard. "Lily, I'm sorry you were scared. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes and kids get worried because of it. That's my fault, not yours." She looked at him with red-rimmed eyes. "Are you Mama's boss?" "I am. My name is Domenico." "Franco says you're important." Franco exaggerates. A small smile touched his mouth. "But I do try to keep people safe, including you and your mama. Would that be okay with you?" Lily studied him seriously, then nodded. "Okay, but only if you promise." "I promise." He held out his pinky finger. Lily hooked hers around it, the sacred bond of childhood agreements. Watching them together did something to my chest, made it tight and warm and terrifying all at once. Franco showed us to a second-floor bedroom, 2 beds, private bathroom, everything we'd need. "I'll be right outside your door," he said. "You need anything, you call." Lily was exhausted from fear and confusion. She fell asleep within an hour, curled under blankets that smelled unfamiliar. I sat beside her bed, stroking her hair, trying not to think about how close we'd come to disaster. A soft knock on the door. Domenico entered quietly, moved to stand beside me. "She's resilient," he said, looking down at my sleeping daughter. "Kids always are. She shouldn't have to be." My voice broke. "She's 6. She should be worried about homework and making friends, not being photographed by men with guns." "I know." He pulled me to my feet, guided me out of the room into the hallway. Franco took up position outside Lily's door, another guardian watching over her. Domenico led me to a study down the hall, closed the door behind us. The moment we were alone, I turned on him. "This is insane. We can't live like this. Lily can't live like this." "I know." "Then let us go. We'll disappear. I'll take her somewhere far from New York, change our names, start over." "That's not how this works." His voice was hard. "Krasniki knows about you now. Knows you're important to me. Letting you go won't make you safe, Sophia. It'll just make you unprotected targets. So what's the alternative? Live in a fortress? Have armed guards follow my daughter to school? Watch her grow up afraid? The alternative is, I eliminate the threat." He said it simply, like discussing a business transaction. Krasniki made a mistake targeting a child. That kind of move loses him allies, makes him vulnerable. I can exploit that. By killing him. By removing him from the equation, along with anyone else who thinks threatening you is acceptable strategy. I stared at him, really seeing him for the first time. Not the man who brought me coffee or asked about Lily's day. The one underneath the killer, the crime boss, the man who solved problems with violence, because that was the language his world understood. "How many people have you killed?" The question came out before I could stop it. He didn't flinch. "Personally? 11? Ordered? More than I can count. Does that terrify you?" Yes. Honesty felt necessary, but not as much as it should. Why not? Because those 11 people probably deserved it. Because the ones you ordered killed were threats to people you protect. Because violence in your world isn't senseless, it's surgical. I moved closer to him. That doesn't make it right. But it makes it understandable. Something shifted in his expression. "You're the only person who's ever looked at me like that." "Like what?" "Like I'm human despite everything I've done. Like the blood on my hands doesn't define me completely." He cupped my face, thumb tracing my cheekbone. "How do you do that? How do you see past all of it?" "Because I see what you do for the people you care about. How you protected me when you didn't have to. How you gave Lily a princess bed and asked her permission to keep her safe. How you carry your mother's memory like a wound that never healed." My voice dropped. "You're not just a killer, Domenico. You're a man trying to survive a world that demands violence. There's a difference. Sophia." He breathed my name like a prayer. "I know this is wrong. I know I shouldn't feel this way about you. But God help me, I do." The admission broke something open inside me. I'm falling for you. Despite everything. Because of everything. And it terrifies me more than anything Krasniki could do. He kissed me then. Not gentle or questioning. desperate and claiming and full of everything we'd been holding back for weeks. I melted into him, hands fisting in his shirt, rising on my toes to get closer. He backed me against the wall, his body a line of heat against mine, and I forgot every reason this was a terrible idea. His mouth moved to my neck, teeth grazing skin that made me gasp. Tell me to stop. No. Sophia, if we do this, everything changes. I won't be able to maintain distance. Won't be able to pretend you're just an employee. You'll be mine completely. Is that what you want? Yes. I pulled his mouth back to mine. I'm already yours. Have been since you put your jacket over my bleeding knee. Since you gave my daughter a princess bed. Since you called at 2 a.m. just to make sure I was safe. He made a sound low in his throat, somewhere between relief and surrender. Kissed me until I couldn't remember why I'd ever tried to resist. Until the only truth that mattered was his hands on my skin and the way he whispered my name like it meant something sacred. We didn't go further than kissing. Not with Lily sleeping down the hall. Not in a safe house surrounded by guards. But the promise was there implicit in every touch, every breathless moment, every time our eyes met and held. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. I need to handle Krasniki tonight, he said quietly. Before he makes another move. Before he figures out just how important you've become. Be careful. Always. He kissed me once more, soft and lingering. Franco stays with you and Lily. He has orders to get you out if anything goes wrong. Promise me you'll listen to him. I promise. Good. He straightened his clothes, becoming the crime boss again. I'll call when it's done. Try to sleep. Sleep. Like that was possible when the man I'd just admitted I was falling for was about to walk into a situation that could get him killed. He paused at the door. Sophia, whatever happens tonight, know that protecting you and Lily is worth any cost, even my life. Don't say that. It's true. His expression was fierce. You made me remember what it feels like to care about something beyond survival. That's not a small gift. Then he was gone, and I stood alone in the study trying to process everything that had just happened. The kiss, the admission, the way my entire world had shifted on its axis in the space of 10 minutes. Franco appeared in the doorway. Boss is gone. You should try to rest. How can I rest when he's walking into danger? Because he's good at what he does, and worrying won't keep him safer. Franco's expression gentled. For what it's worth, I'm glad it's you. Boss deserves someone who sees him clearly and chooses him anyway. I returned to Lily's room, climbed into the second bed, and lay staring at the ceiling. Every sound made my heart race. Was that a car? Gunshots? Domenico returning? The call came at 3:47 a.m. I grabbed the phone on the first ring, desperate not to wake Lily. It's done. Domenico's voice was rough, exhausted. Krasniki is dead. His lieutenants have agreed to the original territory division. The threat is eliminated. Relief flooded through me so intensely it hurt. Are you okay? Couple scratches. Nothing serious. Franco will bring you and Lily home in the morning. I'll meet you at your apartment. Domenico, I know. Me too. He understood what I couldn't say with Lily sleeping 3 feet away. Get some rest. I'll see you soon. Morning came too quickly. Lily woke confused but excited to go home. Franco drove us through early Manhattan traffic, and I watched the city pass by outside the window, feeling like I'd been gone months instead of one night. Everything looked different now. Sharper, more dangerous. Because I knew what hid beneath the gleaming surface. The violence, the territory wars, the men willing to kill over pride and power. I was part of that world now. Had kissed a man who'd killed 11 people. Had fallen for someone whose protection came with a body count. The apartment felt like sanctuary when we walked in. Domenico was already there, waiting in the living room. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, a cut above his left eyebrow that had been recently stitched, wearing in yesterday's clothes like he hadn't had time to go home and change. Lily ran to him immediately. Domenico, Franco said you kept us safe. Thank you. He crouched down, smiled at her with genuine warmth. You're very welcome, Piccola. Do you like being home? Yes. Can I go play in my room? Of course. He glanced at me for permission. I nodded, and Lily disappeared down the hallway, already pulling out toys. The moment she was gone, I crossed to him. His arms came around me immediately, pulling me tight against his chest. I felt him shaking slightly, adrenaline crash, exhaustion or relief, maybe all three. I was so scared, I whispered against his shirt. All night, thinking about what could happen. I'm here. I'm safe. We're all safe. He kissed the top of my head. Krasniki's organization is in chaos. They've agreed to stay out of Manhattan completely. No more threats against you or Lily. It's over. Until the next threat. There's always a next threat. He pulled back to look at me. That's the reality of my world. But I swear to you, Sophia, every threat that comes will have to go through me first. You and Lily are under my protection permanently. That's not negotiable. I love you. The words escaped before I could think better of them. I know it's too soon and completely insane, but I do. I love you. His expression transformed shock, giving way to something that looked almost like wonder. Say it again. I love you, Domenico Salvatore. Even though you're a criminal and dangerous and probably going to break my heart eventually, I love you. He kissed me then, deep and claiming and full of everything we hadn't said. When we finally broke apart, he rested his forehead against mine. I love you too. Have since the night you protected that wine bottle instead of yourself. Since you stood in my office bleeding and still maintained your dignity. His voice roughed. You made me believe I could be more than what this world made me. That's everything, Sophia. We stood there wrapped around each other while morning light filtered through the windows. In her room, Lily sang to her toys, safe and happy, and completely unaware of the violence that had secured her safety. What happens now? I asked quietly. Now you keep working for me. Keep living here. Keep being part of my life. He traced my jawline. But no more pretending this is just professional. You're mine. I'm yours. Whatever that means going forward, we figure it out together. Your world is dangerous. Yes. People will always want to hurt me to get to you. Yes. I'll always be looking over my shoulder. Probably. He didn't lie to me. Didn't soften the reality. But you'll also be protected by the most powerful family in Manhattan. You'll have resources to give Lily every opportunity. You'll have me, completely and without reservation. Is that enough? I thought about it seriously. Weighed the danger against the security, the violence against the protection, the moral compromise against the chance to give my daughter a real future. Yes, I said finally. It's enough. Relief flooded his expression. He kissed me again, soft and sweet this time. A promise, rather than a claim. Good. Because I wasn't letting you go regardless of your answer. I'm selfish like that. I laughed against his mouth. Shocking revelation from a Mafia boss. I contain multitudes. He pulled back, smiled. Now, I need to shower and sleep for approximately 12 hours. Can I do that here? You want to stay? If Lily's okay with it. He glanced toward her room. I don't want to confuse her or move too fast. Let me ask her. I found Lily building an elaborate castle with her toys. Baby? Domenico is very tired from keeping us safe. Would it be okay if he stayed here and rested? She looked up, eyes wide. Like a sleepover? Sort of. He'd sleep in Mama's room, though. Is Domenico your boyfriend? The question caught me off guard. Kids. Saw everything. Missed nothing. Would that be okay with you if he was? Lily considered this seriously. Does he make you happy? Very happy. Then it's okay. She went back to her castle. But tell him he has to read me a bedtime story tonight. That's the rule for boyfriends. I returned to find Domenico exactly where I'd left him. Eyes closed, leaning against the wall like it was the only thing holding him up. She says yes, but you have to read her a bedtime story. Boyfriend rules, apparently. His eyes opened, something vulnerable in them. She called me your boyfriend? Is that okay? It's perfect. It's perfect. He pushed off the wall, pulled me close. All of this is perfect. You, Lily, this life we're building. I don't deserve it, but I'm not giving it up. Good. I took his hand, led him toward my bedroom. Because you're stuck with us now. He showered while I made coffee, changed into clean clothes I'd had Franco bring over, and collapsed into my bed like a man who hadn't slept in days, which he probably hadn't. I climbed in beside him, and he immediately pulled me against his chest, one arm locked around my waist. This is new, I said softly. You've never stayed over before. I've never been in love before. Makes me do reckless things. He was already drifting, voice slurring with exhaustion. Like sleep in your bed in the middle of the day. Like plan futures instead of exit strategies. Like believe this could actually work. Can it work? Really? We'll make it work. He kissed my shoulder. Because the alternative is living without you, and that's not acceptable. He fell asleep within minutes, his breathing evening out. I lay there watching him, this dangerous man who'd killed for me, protected me, loved me, despite every reason not to. In the living room, I could hear Lily playing. Safe, happy, completely secure in a way she'd never been before. All because I'd spilled wine on the right man at the right moment. All because Salvatore had looked at a struggling waitress and seen someone worth protecting. The future was still uncertain, still dangerous, still full of moral compromises and violence I couldn't prevent. But for the first time since coming to America 8 years ago, I felt like we'd found home. Not a place, not safety. Home was this Domenico's arms around me, Lily's laughter echoing through the apartment, and the knowledge that whatever came next, we'd face it together. Sometimes love meant choosing the devil you knew over the demons you didn't. Sometimes it meant accepting protection that came with a price. Sometimes it meant falling for someone who operated outside every law you'd been taught to respect. I'd made that choice. Chosen him. His world. His dangerous love over the illusion of safety I'd never really had anyway. And lying there in the afternoon light with him sleeping beside me, I couldn't bring myself to regret it. Not yet. Maybe not ever. 3 months later. The renovations on Domenico's penthouse took 6 weeks. He'd insisted on adding a room specifically for Lily bigger than the one in my apartment, with custom built-ins and a reading nook by the window. Another princess bed. But this one even more elaborate. He'd consulted with her on colors, took her shopping for decorations, involved her in every decision. If she's going to live here part-time, he'd said when I protested the expense, she should love her space. We'd settled into a rhythm. Weekdays at my apartment for routine and Lily's school. Weekends at Domenico's penthouse, where she had a whole floor to herself and he taught her Italian cooking in his massive kitchen. It was unconventional, complicated, and somehow perfect. My role at Moretti Enterprises had evolved. I wasn't just translating anymore, I was advising on international negotiations, helping identify potential business partners, occasionally sitting in on meetings where my read on people proved valuable. Domenico trusted my instincts in ways that went beyond language skills. The legitimate business side was expanding rapidly. Domenico had meant what he said about diversifying investing profits into ventures that could withstand federal scrutiny. He talked about eventually phasing out the illegal operations entirely, about building something Lily could inherit without shame. "Give me 5 years," he'd said last week, holding me in the dark of his bedroom. 5 years to clean up the family business enough that our children won't have to live the way I did. Our children. The phrase had stolen my breath, but I'd smiled against his chest and said, 5 years. I can work with that. Now I stood in his office, reviewing contracts for a new wine import business, when Maria knocked. "Sophia, there's someone here to see you. She says she's your sister." My heart stopped. My sister. I hadn't seen Gabriella in 3 years. Not since she'd married a man our family disapproved of and been essentially disowned. We'd lost touch when I came to America, both of us too proud to reach out first. She stood in the reception area looking older than I remembered. Same dark hair, same brown eyes, but worn down by life in ways that made my chest tight. "Sophia." Her voice broke. "I'm sorry to just show up. I didn't know where else to go." I pulled her into the conference room, closed the door. "What happened? Are you okay?" "My husband Carlos, he got involved with some people. Bad people. They're after him for money he owes. $50,000. Tears streamed down her face. "They threatened our children. Said if Carlos doesn't pay, they'll take them." "Sophia, I'm terrified." Every protective instinct I'd developed over the past 3 months roared to life. "Where are you staying?" "A motel in Jersey. Carlos is trying to get money together, but there's no way. These men, they're serious. They're connected." Connected. Mafia, cartel, organized crime, the taxonomy didn't matter. What mattered was my sister's children were in danger. "Come with me." I led her to Domenico's office, knocked once before entering. He looked up from his desk, immediately reading the situation. "What's wrong?" "This is my sister, Gabriella. Her family is being threatened. I need your help." To his credit, Domenico didn't hesitate. "Sit, tell me everything." Gabriella explained. Carlos had borrowed money from a loan shark connected to a smaller crime family operating in New Jersey. The debt had ballooned with interest. Now they wanted payment or blood. "Who specifically?" Domenico asked. The name I heard was Russo. Anthony Russo. Something shifted in Domenico's expression. "I know Russo. Small-time operator trying to build reputation. Dangerous because he's reckless, not because he's powerful." He looked at me. "This is fixable." "How?" "I'll make a call. Russo won't want problems with the Salvatore family over $50,000. I'll buy Carlos's debt, forgive it, and make it clear your sister's family is under my protection." Gabriella stared at him. "You'd do that? For people you don't even know?" "I'd do it for Sophia." He said it simply. "She's mine to protect. That protection extends to her family." 20 minutes later it was handled. One phone call from Domenico to Anthony Russo, a conversation conducted in Italian that I could follow well enough to understand the threat underneath the polite words. By the time he hung up, Gabriella's debt was erased, and her family was marked as Salvatore territory. "You're safe," Domenico told her. "Russo won't touch you or your children. If he tries, he answers to me, which he won't, because he's not that stupid." Gabriella broke down crying. "Thank you. God, thank you. How can I ever repay you?" "You can't." Domenico stood, moved to where I sat. "But Sophia can. By continuing to be exactly who she is. That's payment enough." After Gabriella left, heading back to Jersey to collect her family and move them somewhere safer, I turned to Domenico. "You just spent $50,000 without blinking." "I didn't spend anything. Russo forgave the debt to avoid conflict with me. Cost me nothing except a phone call." "Still, you helped her because I asked." "I helped her because she's your family, which makes her my family." He pulled me into his arms. "This is what we do, Sophia. We protect the people we love. Use the power we have to make their lives safer. That's the point of all of it." I kissed him, soft and grateful. "I love you." "I know." He smiled against my mouth. "But I never get tired of hearing it." That evening, back at my apartment with Lily, I made dinner while she did homework at the kitchen table. Normal, domestic, everything I'd dreamed of when I first came to America. "Mama?" Lily looked up from her math problems. "Is Domenico going to marry you?" I nearly dropped the pan I was holding. "What makes you ask that?" "Because he looks at you the way Prince Eric looks at Ariel, like you're magic, out of the mouths of children. Would you be okay if he did?" "Yes." She bounced in her chair. "Then we could live in the big house all the time, and I could have a baby brother or sister like Emma at school has." My face burned. "We're not quite there yet, baby." But the idea planted itself in my mind. Marriage. A future. More children. Everything I'd thought impossible when I was serving wine and dodging creditors. Later that night, after Lily was asleep, Domenico called. "I've been thinking," he said without preamble. About how I want to marry you. Not someday. Not eventually. Soon." He paused. "Is that insane?" "Completely insane." My heart raced. "We've only been together 3 months. I've been in love with you since the moment you fell at my feet covered in wine. Everything since has just been me trying to catch up to what I already knew." His voice dropped lower. "Marry me, Sophia. Make this official. Let me adopt Lily. Give you both my name, my protection, everything I have." "Domenico, you don't have to answer now. Think about it. But know that I'm serious. I want you permanently. Want to wake up next to you every morning. Want to teach Lily Italian and have more children and build a life that's ours." Tears burned behind my eyes. "Yes." Silence. Then, "Yes? Yes, I'll marry you. Yes to all of it. Because you're right, we already know. Everything else is just details." His exhale was shaky. "Can I come over? I need to see you right now." "Lily's asleep." "I don't care. I'll be quiet. I just need to hold you and know this is real." He arrived 20 minutes later, let himself in with the key I'd given him weeks ago. Found me on the couch where I'd been sitting in the dark, processing what had just happened. He pulled me into his arms without a word. Held me like I might disappear. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough with emotion. "I never thought I'd have this. Never thought I deserved it. Then you spilled wine on me and changed everything. Best accident I ever made. Best night of my life." He pulled back, cupped my face. "I'll get you a ring tomorrow. Something worthy of you. We'll do this properly. I don't need expensive. I want to give you everything." He kissed me soft and lingering. "Let me." So I did. Let him love me, protect me, claim me completely. Let myself fall into a future I'd never imagined but couldn't live without now. The ring appeared 2 days later, a platinum band with a single perfect diamond. Nothing ostentatious, just elegant and timeless. He'd proposed officially in his penthouse kitchen while teaching Lily how to make pasta carbonara. Down on one knee with my daughter as witness, asking if I'd do him the honor of becoming his wife. Lily had squealed with delight. I'd said yes through happy tears, and Domenico had stood and kissed me like I was the answer to every question he'd ever asked. We married 6 weeks later in a small ceremony at City Hall. Just us, Lily, Franco, and Maria as witnesses. Nothing elaborate because the marriage itself was what mattered. The legal bond that made me, Sofia Salvatore, made Lily his daughter, made us a family in every way that counted. The reception happened that evening at Domenico's penthouse. Small gathering of people who mattered his inner circle, Rosa and Gabriella, a handful of legitimate business associates. Lily wore a white dress and a flower crown, convinced she was a princess at a real ball. I wore ivory silk that Domenico had selected personally. He couldn't stop touching me, hand at my back, fingers laced with mine, stealing kisses when he thought no one was watching. "Happy?" he murmured during our first dance. "Impossibly happy." I rested my head against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. "Thank you for saving me that night, for seeing something worth protecting. Thank you for letting me," he kissed the top of my head. "For choosing this life. For choosing me despite everything. I'd choose you again. Every time." We danced while Manhattan glittered below us, while Lily spun in circles with Franco, while our chosen family celebrated the impossible love story we'd built from wine stains and desperation. Later, much later, when Lily was asleep in her room and the guests had gone home, Domenico carried me to our bedroom. "Mrs. Salvatore," he said against my mouth, "that has a nice ring to it. So does Mr. Salvatore." I pulled him closer. My dangerous, protective, surprisingly domestic husband. "Domestic?" He laughed. "I'm a crime boss. A crime boss who makes pasta with our daughter and reads her bedtime stories. Who bought her a princess bed and lets her paint his nails on weekends. That's pretty domestic. She's impossible to refuse. Like her mother." He kissed me deeper, hands working the zipper of my dress. Speaking of impossible to refuse, we made love slowly, carefully, learning each other in ways we hadn't allowed ourselves before. Building something new from the foundation we'd established over months of stolen moments and careful boundaries finally removed. "I love you," he whispered against my skin. "My Sofia, my unexpected salvation. I love you too." I pulled him closer, tighter. My Domenico, my impossible choice that turned out to be the only right one. We fell asleep tangled together while the city slept around us. Two people who'd found each other through chaos and built something real from the wreckage of our separate struggles. In the morning, Lily would climb into bed with us, chattering about breakfast and her new school project. We'd make pancakes together, argue about cartoon choices, live the gloriously normal life we'd fought so hard to create. But for now, we just held each other, breathing in sync, hearts beating the same rhythm, husband and wife, family, home. The girl who'd spilled wine on a Mafia boss was gone. In her place was Sofia Salvatore, translator, advisor, wife, mother, protected and cherished, and loved beyond anything she'd dreamed possible. And the man who'd offered salvation to a desperate waitress? He'd found it himself in the process. Found redemption in protecting someone who needed him. Found love in the last place he'd expected to look. Sometimes the best love stories started with disasters, with wine-soaked suits and bleeding knees and choices made from desperation rather than logic. Ours had started that way, and somehow, impossibly, it had led us here, to forever, to family, to home. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you love this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.